Hello, everyone. This is Mind Your Business podcast with myself, Kob. And today I've got a very special guest with me. It's the founder of a social enterprise. It's called 2020 Change, founded by Mr. Duro Oye. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you very much, Kay.
Yeah.
Glad to be here.
Thank you very much. I mean, when I first came across this business or the social enterprise, shall I say, I was quite fascinated by the work you were doing and, the lives you were changing. That got me really interested. I started looking at, sort of the journey, if you like. But I mean, it'd be nice to know what made you think about starting this enterprise, what motivated you, and a bit of a background, maybe about yourself briefly, and what, kind of nudged you in creating this amazing company.
No, absolutely. When people ask me what initiated or what motivated me to start in 2020 Change, I can't talk about that without talking about my own personal story.
Sure.
Because it's definitely down to the experiences that I had as a young person growing up. Coming from less than privileged background.
Sure.
Growing up in a council estate, single income household, all the challenges that come along with that.
Yeah.
And then trying to navigate into, the corporate world and the corporate space and really understanding that because I didn't really have anyone from my immediate circle, family that transitioned or worked within the corporate world, I had to learn a lot of things on my own.
I see.
I had to kind of change my circles. I had to change the people that I was around. I had to get introduced to mentors. And that for me, because I was able to do that quite early on in my journey, a lot of people helped me, show me the way, show me the ropes. And I felt like once I was able to turn things around, I can now go back and help others do the same. So I didn't feel like I needed to be, all the way at the top of the mountain before going back down to help others. I felt like I've taken a few steps forward. There's a few things that I've learned. I can go back and show more people, bring them to where I'm at. And at the same time, I'm still moving forward. We're all moving forward together.
Absolutely.
And if I can get them to do the same thing, it's like we're all growing and developing and sharing together. And that's where the idea and the concept kind of came from.
Amazing. So you touched on something there in terms of you had to change your circles. Now, that might sound quite simple, but I think most people that are in same backgrounds or any background for that matter, it's quite hard to change your circles because you don't know anything beyond your circles to start with, right? So, and people hear it a lot, someone's listening to this right now and as they've heard it, change your circles and get a mentor. Let's touch on the first thing, changing your circles. How or what, was there a point that made you realize I have to do this now? Or was it something just you had inherently in you? I'm just trying to get to the point where the point where someone watching can say, what are the steps I can take to change my circles?
Change your circle.
What do I do? I mean, is it just a case of saying, cut all my contacts and stuff?
I mean,
what did you do?
It all depends on where you are as an individual and how much change you want to make, within your life. So where I was wasn't the most healthiest of places to be, if we put it that way. So I was, in and around criminals, kind of flirted with the law, dabbled in stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, if dabbled is putting it lightly.
Do you
know what I mean? I kind of jumped in head first into certain things.
And it's a common story though, because what you're around, it's what you're
exactly
around,
you get sucked in, and that was it for me. So the environment that I kind of came up in, it was very much like that, and I kind of felt like I hit a glass ceiling with regards to how far I can go living that kind of lifestyle. People around me started dying, going to prison for long stretches, getting deported, and all of that, everything that comes along with that. And I just started thinking, how much further can I go living this kind of lifestyle?
Absolutely.
Thankfully, due to my mum's prayers, I came out kind of unscathed. You know what I mean? I don't have horror stories like some of my peers, meaning
Sure.
like I've never been to prison, never been stabbed,
Sure.
never been shot, all of those kind of things. I was kind of protected in that sense. And I guess that's what made my transition slightly easier.
Easier, of course.
Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
And that burden's always kind of been on my shoulder in terms of like, you made it out.
You got to help people that
you have to. Do you know what I mean?
That when I was lucky,
and then also for me,
prayers or just had maybe even have a mum, even, or
exactly,
a responsible mum.
And I also felt that burden of responsibility for those that I influenced with my lifestyle.
I see.
Do you get my point?
Yeah, that's
so that was also a huge burden for me, like to the point where like I used to think about it a lot. I even counted how many young people I influenced on negatively, right. Yeah. And I said to myself, I want to influence the same amount, if not more, on a positive road. In a positive way. Right. So that's also kind of feeds into my motivation for the work that I do.
Okay.
But to answer your question, you said, how does one kind of change their circles? That desire needs to be there, that desire for change, that hunger for doing things differently.
Sure.
And where it clicked for me was me thinking about all of the things that I was involved in and that I did. Where did that come from? It came from my mind. Right. I was very crafty. I was very kind of creative in my thinking and my imagination. So I was able to craft out things to do that would bring me in money.
Yeah.
And
strategic.
Very strategic.
But just in the wrong place. Using
in the wrong way. Yeah. And no one had ever shown me how to use it in a more positive way, because the people that are around recognize the skills and they recognize how they could use it for their financial gain and also my own financial gain. And that was what I went down, and it was very comfortable. So I was living a very comfortable life, but it wasn't sustainable in the long term.
That's the key word, isn't it? It wasn't sustainable. Because you mentioned a lot of people in these issues think is what you hear, people end up in jail or dead or deported.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I had to remove myself from that environment and place myself in a new environment where people recognize those skills and teach me how to use them in a positive way.
Fantastic.
So I had to go out and find them.
You had to go find them.
I had to go out and find them. I had to be proactive. Where do you go to find these people? Obviously back then, I'm talking, when did I make my change? I made my change in 2006.
Right.
It's been a while.
It's been a while, yes.
You know what I mean?
Back then you just sought them out in what
places?
Like,
not even workplaces. This was before work, So like my church community played a major part in that. Right. I saw lots of like positive role models within the church. Sure. I kind of attached myself to them in that sense.
Yeah.
One of the things that we teach young people is how to recognize role models and opportunities. So a lot of young people think that, there are a lack of role models, particularly black male role models. And we challenge that thinking. It's like you're looking at it with the wrong lens. So you could grow up on a council estate and see someone that's a medical student, studying medicine, 4 years, 5 years dedicated to that. You don't see them as a role model.
No.
But you see the drug dealer with the big chain and the flashy car.
You're looking towards the big.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's your mindset that's skewed, and that's what we need to change. So when I was listening to these kind of things and listening to those, influential men that I was now around through my church community, got me thinking differently. And I started hanging around with them, kind of watching how they do things, looked online, looked at events that I could go to that was in line with things that I was interested in.
Yeah.
I could dress well, I could put something together, I could speak well as well. So I just go in and I just engage with people.
Engage with them, yes.
And just like that, started growing my network, building my network, engaging with different people, making friends. They'll introduce me to this person. I was always a people's person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that kind of worked for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the other side
as well.
So that's how I kind of used some of those skills in this way. I was like, okay, I could actually do this. And then I started thinking, okay, so what could I do in terms of like business and building stuff? And that's where kind of like the idea came from. I'm a creative by nature. I studied graphics and advertising at university. So I started using that. Then I went in and made a documentary film on gang culture.
Okay.
And I followed the lives of 6 ex-gang members, 3 from Peckham, 3 from Brixton.
Sure.
About 18 months.
18 months?
Yeah, documenting their change. And it was in that moment, over those months, working with them, like, living and breathing their lifestyle and watching how they wanted to change and become upstanding members of society and how difficult it was for them.
Right.
I was able to then recognize that there were things that I learned from the positive mentors that I had around me. So this is years on now.
Right, see.
That I thought that I could pour into them.
Right.
I didn't know anything about mentoring or anything like that. I was just sharing knowledge and information that I'd received.
Yeah, sure.
And passing it on to them. And they implemented it and it works for them. And thinking back to, I think the number was 450 young men or young people that I influenced down the wrong path.
Oh, really? You counted it, you said.
Yeah. I thought if I can make this documentary, because of the lifestyle that the guys lived, they were so influential doing a lot of the wrong things that they did.
Yeah.
If people could see that they've turned their lives around in a positive way.
Absolutely.
And it was coming from them, people would listen.
Right.
And turn their lives around as well. So I thought, this is it. I'm going to make this documentary.
Effect.
Exactly. Put it out there. 400 young people are going to see it.
Yeah.
And they're going to say that they want to denounce the,
That was the equation on the other side.
That was it for me. So in 2012, we made the documentary, screened it at Odeon Leicester Square. I invited all of the youth organizations that I knew that were doing work at the time within the communities that we were trying to engage, young people that were trying to engage. And yeah, the film was it was a good hit. You know,
right.
We got a standing ovation,
amazing
claps, laughs and everything. And at the end, we did a Q&A. And then people asked, okay, what's next? You know, where do you want to go with this?
Right.
And I laid out the blueprint, gave the plan. I said, I want to give it to youth organizations like yourselves to take it, turn it into workshops, take it into schools, prisons, and work with young people within the community so they can also turn their lives around. And they're like, yeah, fantastic, amazing, let's do it. And
that's where the journey started, basically, really.
That's where it ended. That's where it ended. Like literally after that, I tried to follow up a week later, 2 weeks later. No one was responding to my emails.
Oh, really? Oh, so wow.
And then I was just like, and at the time I'd spent all the money that I had on the doc. I even borrowed money, had people invest in the film, and we spent about 47.5 on the film all in. And I was just looking at the hard drive on my dining room thinking, this is it.
This is it. Well,
I have nothing else. You know, so, and I made promises to those guys.
Right.
That if they were true, genuine and authentic about their story and their journey, it was going to change lives. So I decided to go at it alone. And that's where the idea for 2020 Change came from. So we decided to turn what we were sharing in the film and what I was sharing with those guys while we were making the film into workshops that would take into schools, communities, and help change young people's mindsets.
Right. So what were the things that when you were doing the documentary with this, hardened gang members, what were the things that that was key that, you spotted that, the information they needed that they weren't getting?
It was the same information that I felt like I was lacking, that understanding that they had skills, desirable skills that they could be highly rewarded for if they use those skills in the right way.
In the right settings.
Exactly. So I coined the term called street enterprise. So instead of labeling them as gang members, fraudsters, robbers or whatever, just put it all under street enterprise. So there were young people that were skilled in street enterprise, but weren't really so skilled in regular enterprise.
Yeah.
So if they could sell drugs at a high level, not all of them.
Yeah.
Because you get some really, really smart individuals.
Absolutely.
And in their minds, they feel like that's all that they can do because that's all that they've ever done.
Sure.
Was to sell drugs and move big boxes,
big
heavy weight, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in their minds, they feel like that's it. But if you can do that with all the risk that comes with it, and still make huge amounts of profit, I can teach you to do that.
To do it proper way.
Setting.
Yeah.
Selling something else. and you don't have to worry about the risk. You don't have to worry about the police. You don't have to worry about someone, killing you.
Yeah.
All of the things that you have to deal with on a day-to-day. I mean, all you have to do is deal with some, office politics and
Yes.
some email warriors.
Yeah.
Like, if you've had a gun in your face and you,
that's nothing.
That's nothing.
That's not a big deal.
That's nothing.
Really? Yeah.
So it's just it came down to really teach them how to polish themselves.
Right, sure.
How to conduct themselves in a professional manner.
Yeah.
And also recognizing that what they had was skills, because all they were ever told is that, oh, you don't have grades, so you have to go back to school.
Sure.
For them, like, school wasn't really a thing that they took seriously.
No.
Some of them were book smart and street smart. They just didn't have the time to go to school because they wanted to spend their time on the streets making money.
Yeah.
So it was just about teaching them, like, these are all principles that you can apply to this. If you ever thought, like, you're a critical thinker, you're quick with it, you can sell, you've got the gift of the gab, all of these things you can use.
You can use, transfer the skills.
No one's ever shown them. When you start talking to them about getting a permanent job, a corporate job, in their minds, they'd only ever come across people that worked a 9 to 5 and were making 1,200 a month. So one of the guys actually said to me, he said, "What am I going to get a job for when all I can get is 1,200 a month?"
Right. Yes, and that's a big thing, actually. Mindset. But that is a very real point you mentioned there.
It's a blocker.
Yes, it is a blocker, because blocker. they equate office jobs to 1,200
until you bring them someone that's making 1,200 a day.
A day, yeah,
and they're like,
getting millions in bonuses.
I didn't know that.
Right.
But if they're not in your immediate circle,
yes.
If you bear in mind, social media wasn't a big thing back then.
Yeah.
Right now, you're seeing a lot of young black men killing it within the corporate world. So people can now aspire for that.
And women, black women.
And women, absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously, we started with men, so I was just
because of because of the gang related
so
issues.
That's
black men.
That's kind of where we started. We like, the aim of the organization back then when we started was to work with these young men that were involved in street enterprise and teach them how to utilize the skills that they acquired from that as transferable skills that they can take into the corporate world. They can use to start their own businesses, and as a result of that, we were able to introduce them to, like, investors.
Yes,
people will pour into their business, and then they can grow their businesses from there.
Yeah,
that's how it started. And then we kind of changed and pivoted in, I would say, so we launched the organization in 2013. By 2016, by 2015, 16, we kind of pivoted and recognized that what we were pouring into these young men, we actually need to be pouring into young people right across the board.
Yeah, sure.
And not just limit it to, young men, because we recognized that we were instilling confidence in them, self-esteem, self-worth, helping them, find their identity, becoming proud of who they've grown to become. And we felt like young people needed us across the board, so we opened out the program to all young people.
Okay.
And then we started to recognize that, like, there's so much for ex-offenders and people that were involved in a life of crime, or people that did a lot of the wrong things, but there was no provision for those that did everything right.
Yes.
So if you're looking at council estates, there are people that live on those council, young people that live on those council estates that listen to their parents, kept their head down, went to school, got the grades, but the impacts of where they grew up
follows them.
The influence, it still has a damaging impact on them. Right. But no one talks about that.
Well, so what are the impacts? That's an interesting point to raise.
This is a key thing, and this is what a lot of our corporate partners are now kind of interested in, because when I mentioned to them that 85% of the young people that we work with are actually university grads, they're like, what? But why do they need your help? You get it? Because ideally, if you go to a good university, get a good grade, you should be able to just secure a good job. But that's not the case, because there's barriers into entry that a lot of the young people face because of where they've come from, because of how they look, and because of the same issues that the young people, or that personally that I had, is those circles and access to networks.
Right.
So if you're a young person that grew up in a council estate, you too have only ever come across people that work a 9 to 5 and earn 1,200 a month.
Sure.
So you go to school, you're educated, you recognize that, if if you keep your head down and get the grades, you can get these, 6-figure jobs that you can then, but how do you get from graduating with a first class degree, Red Brick University, even if you go to Oxford, Cambridge, to then landing
a good job,
that job,
a great job,
because they don't have anyone within their circle that has ever done it.
It's a very interesting point.
It's difficult.
Yeah,
it's challenging. So, how do you even structure your CV in the right way?
Yes.
Your cover letter, then the assessment center, and then if you're blessed enough to even land that job, how do you engage with the people there?
Very important point. I mean, I was going to actually raise that point. You just touched on it.
These are
the
all
confidence,
things.
isn't it? Like,
exactly.
You might know all these things, you get there, and because you've only been exposed to a certain environment, you almost feel a sense of not belonging in those environments, the new environments.
Yeah.
And so you might just buckle up.
So a lot of people are talking about this imposter syndrome, that they don't feel like they're supposed to be here. They just feel like they're just they're trying to figure it out as they go along.
So you instill this confidence in your workshops.
Exactly. So what we do, our workshop is 10 weeks. And it's like the first 6 weeks is all centered around the mind and how the mind works. So helping you identify your core skills, your drivers, your core passions.
Yeah.
And then in the background, while we're teaching you all of that, we're also assessing what industries, what sectors would be best suited to.
Sure.
Right. So, and then we have partner sessions, people that come in and deliver workshops, specific workshops on things that we believe should be taught in schools, but aren't currently taught in schools.
Right, I see.
Financial literacy, money management, mindfulness, well-being, etiquette skills, corporate social etiquette, how to conduct yourself in a professional environment, digital skills, CV workshop.
Most of this stuff are not taught in schools, are they? All these things you need in this day and age actually to survive and
just how to function as an adult.
As an adult, yeah. Get by properly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things aren't taught in school. And if you don't come from a solid family, if you don't have a solid family background, these things should be taught at home.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
But because you don't have a solid family background, you don't get that at home.
You don't get us.
Parents are out working, trying to keep the lights on. Obviously, you come from an African background.
Yeah.
To them, that's love.
Yes.
You've got food, you've got electricity, you've got clothes on your back. What more do you need? all of these extra bits.
What do you mean by digital lectures or anything else there?
No one's got time for it. Things are changing, right? And for us, it's like we want to get our young people to really understand that they could be the best version of themselves.
Yeah,
they
absolutely.
Be their true, authentic self, regardless of where it is that they go.
And I think for me, I mean, the podcast is obviously about investments in business, and in my book, Mind Your Business, I speak about 10 things basically that you can invest in, from real estate to stocks. And actually, a couple of the things that I'll call non-financial, but very, very important. The first of them, one of them is mentorship, which you've touched on. Yeah. The value of mentorship is priceless. So important. It's priceless. And then the second thing which you mentioned is also, investing in yourself. Yeah. The first thing is to actually get that confidence and have the soft skills, if you like. Yeah. The discipline. Yeah. Then you can focus on all the extra skills you have and face the world. So I think the project you're doing is absolutely commendable, because if you have all this, if you're smart, if you go with your lectures, but you haven't got the confidence and you can't fit in a society properly, it's quite difficult. And I mean, someone mentioned to me, or gave me an acronym in ASK, ask, K is for knowledge which you gain over time, skills, skills you if you practice, you get better. But A is the attitude or the character or the confidence even. It's your personality. And that's, I think, what part of the big thing is in these young people. And it's interesting where we are right now. This
it's one of our alumni members.
One of our alumni members, yeah. Michael, I believe, right?
Michael, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, that's a testament. I mean, I didn't even know. I just booked this studio and I told you, I would like to speak to you and say, oh, is it the one in London Bridge? And that's one of my alumni. And that shows, it shows for you personally anyway, the results of what you're doing. And that's priceless, and I want to thank you as well, from me personally, just what you're doing. It's amazing. But I suppose for you personally, what has been the key things that is, how has it improved you as a person? If I was to say, look, 8, 9, 10 years, you're teaching, people how to have confidence, young men, young people, they're growing and, setting up businesses like this and going to the cities and doing fantastic things. But, what would you say a couple of things, that's improved you? Because
I mean, it's definitely, it's made me a better person and it's given me hope for the future. And it's also instilled hope in people, because we wouldn't be where we are as an organization without the right kind of connections and allies. I think it's important for me to kind of touch on that, like the initial people that helped me and helped the organization didn't look like me. They didn't come from the background that I came from. And I think that I can't
just good people, basically.
Just good people, kind-hearted people that had nothing to gain. And for me, it's instilled that in me, meaning that if they were willing to open up their network, their bank checkbook, to me, I should also be able to do the same for others. So when people reach out to me for help, advice, guidance, I'm always kind of like the first to help, first to respond.
And that's a very good point, because you said people that don't look like you, the ones that, a lot of them are helping out and giving you their time, which is important, and even their resources, financial or otherwise, right? And I think that's the key point for some of the young people out there. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, they might think, this person doesn't look like me, so they're definitely not going to help me out.
Yeah, I mean...
And there are experiences maybe, but there are a lot of good people that don't look like you, not from the same background.
This is so true.
As long as you got the right attitude, they're willing to help.
If you don't ask, you don't get. We have a thriving mentoring program, Mentor Matcher at 2020 Change. And a lot of young people, because 95% of the young people we work with are Black, come from an ethnic minority background.
Sure.
And they used to come to us and say, I want a mentor that looks like me. I want a mentor that, has been through what I've been through. And I say to them, you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
Because firstly, if you think about it, where you're trying to get to, what if no other Black person or brown person has been there before? What then?
Yeah.
What if you're supposed to be the first person to get there? Absolutely. What about those that are there now? You can't learn anything from them?
Yeah.
And then if you're looking at broadening your network, widening your network, it's important to have different people.
Absolutely, yeah.
The diversity of thought is not just for a corporate organization. Yeah. It's also for you in terms of your development as well.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking you only want to be connected to Black people, then you've missed the trick.
Yes.
I want to be connected to everyone.
To good people, people that will take you to the next
good
level.
People, genuine people. And there's so many of them out there. It's not about race. It's not about, where the person's come from. It's not even about whether they had the same similar experiences to you. Sometimes it's even better that they haven't had those experiences, because there's that exchange. You can teach them certain things. Absolutely. And they can teach you certain things. And then you build that relationship with them, and they're able to open certain doors for you, able to take you into certain rooms and introduce you to certain people. Yeah. That's what it's been like for me. So I've got an extensive network, and my network continues to grow because I'm open to speaking to anyone.
Yeah. And you got to be comfortable in those rooms as well, because when you walk in the rooms, not everyone's always going to look like you in the big rooms, right?
No.
So if you haven't had the experience of dealing and understanding the little subtle things of different nuances. Nuances, right? You might crack a joke that's meant to be a joke, and you might take it off, offensively. I'm like, what's that? But because you've not really engaged,
this is it.
With different kind of people from different backgrounds at the top level.
Yeah, and I think it's important, even when I don't like it when I'm the only kind of Black person in a particular room. I always like to bring others along with me. So if it's my first time, cool, don't worry about it. Next time, just know that it's going to be 2 or 3 of us.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'll just continue doing that. Yeah. When I get invited to speak at certain of these functions, I always ask whether I can bring some of my alumni members so they can start becoming comfortable with it. Absolutely. Even the way that we deliver our programs. We don't deliver our programs in community centers or anywhere where the young people are from. We take them into the city. so they can start becoming comfortable in those kind of environments. It's all a mindset.
Sure.
It's all helping them develop that right kind of mindset. And when I tell them about engaging with different people, be mentored by different people, they're open to it. And some of our successes, some of our major successes when it comes to mentoring have been, interracial
mentorship. People that just want to help you out.
And just like taking someone from, a top company, C-suite level, to a young person that's just graduated uni, or a young person that's just been released from prison. All of these kind of things are so key. It's like it's different worlds colliding, and they're learning from someone. Like, we launched the mentoring program in 2020 in the heart of lockdown. After the murder of George Floyd. And CEOs were kind of thinking, should they go back into the office? They couldn't have certain conversations with their team members because people weren't being open and honest about their genuine experiences. But then they got a mentor from 2020, and they can have those conversations with them.
Amazing.
And then in the same way, the young person could also have deep conversations with the top CEO, and that they wouldn't ordinarily be able to ask, certain questions.
Amazing.
And it's just powerful things that came out from that, and long-lasting friendships have come from that. Like, I've still got mentors from when I first started.
Amazing.
A number of them sit on our board today.
Fantastic.
And I just believe in the power of building authentic relationships.
Yeah, fantastic. So if someone's out there right now, a young person out there right now in those, coming from those tough backgrounds, struggling to get out from those environments, what are the two things, watching right now, what are the two things you would advise them to do that could maybe tomorrow, next week, start sending them that path?
I mean, it's easier said than done, right? You have to get out of those kind of environments in your head first.
Sure.
Because you're not in prison. You're not locked up. London is open. London is free.
Yeah.
It's not even that expensive to get around.
No,
even if you buy a bus pass and you tap your Oyster, you can go from the worst council estate to Knightsbridge.
Yeah.
Just go there and walk around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Just get that experience.
Get that experience. Go out there, understand that London is big.
Yes.
Engage with different people. That's what I used to do. Like, I used to try and blag my way into private members club.
Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah. Just get that exposure, basically. 100%. Is the thing.
And
I think that's the first step.
It is so key. So
get exposure.
I used to go into the city and just walk around, and I see these private members.
Just walk in there.
So I just walk in,
get comfortable,
and have a conversation.
Start from that.
And that's how I met a lot of some of my contacts in these private members clubs, just off of the back of me going in and having a conversation. Or even just going to a hotel bar, sitting down, and ordering a drink, and then
about the exposure, really, isn't it?
Sparking a conversation with someone and going from there. So that's the first thing, and then I think it's important for you to really just understand where it is that you want to go, or what it is that you want to do, and then who you want to surround yourself with. Like, the internet is great. There's so much out there. A lot of the young people that come onto our program find out about us from the internet and social media. So there's so much out there, and there's so much support. You just have to be willing to ask.
Fantastic. Duro Oye, it's been a pleasure. Seriously. And I wish you all the best with 2020 change. I think it's a fantastic thing you're doing, and I know it's growing because I've been following your progress. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good to see you.
And you
Thank you.
Thank you.